Everything about Bridget Firtle and her Bushwick, Brooklyn business, which happens to be a 4,000 square foot distillery and tasting room, exudes coolness. Where else are you going to see a single woman in her 20s driving a forklift, creating batches of liquor?
This was always a pipe dream, retirement type of deal. I would do this when I, finished my career in finance, and it would be kind of a hobby. And I had been basically trying to figure out what my next move in finance would be, always with the dream of owning my own business.
At the hedge fund where Bridget originally worked, she was on the consumer staples team. Her specialty was in global alcoholic beverages, so she had spent plenty of time investing, traveling, and studying publicly traded beer, wine, and spirits companies. She was thinking about going into venture capital, but decided to start her own company after listening to a professor talk about the subject.
The professor was a professor at Stanford talking to MBAs saying, how can you go into venture capital when you've never run your own business? How are you going to evaluate other people's business plans and decide whether or not to deploy capital to these startups when you have no experience in starting your own company? Go out, start your own business, don't be afraid to fail.
With those words in mind, Bridget created a business plan and developed her first product, which would be a white rum made from 100% high-test sugarcane molasses. She would call it Oni's.
Oni actually is the nickname of a man named Owen Madden, who was a notorious character at the turn of the century in the city. And he was from Hell's Kitchen, and he was a leader of the Gopher Gang. And then during Prohibition, he was a bootlegger, a speakeasy proprietor, and a rum runner. And that's really where I find a fit with him.
That's because the house Bridget grew up in Rockaway Beach, Queens, housed a speakeasy.
The story is that Oni actually had an estate in Rockaway as well, and he used to run rum off the shores of the Atlantic.
Bridget says the ships would come up from the Caribbean filled with rum, and they would line up on what was then known as Rum Row, about 12 miles out offshore into international waters.
So then in the middle of the night, the gangsters would get on their rowboats, row out to Rum Row, fill their boats up with rum, and smuggle it back to shore during Prohibition. So the rumor was you could actually drive your rowboat under his house in Rockaway to take deliveries.
Fortunately for Bridget, deliveries these days are a bit easier, but there's still plenty of blood, sweat, and tears that go into this business.
This looks like a very interesting machine here. What is this?
So this is a copper pot still. It's handmade, made to order from Germany. And basically this is where distilling occurs.
From leading tastings inside the tasting room, to transports, to mixing and placing labels on bottles, Bridget does it all. And while that's a lot of responsibility, she encourages other women to take on the challenge of business ownership. She says she couldn't be happier.
Oh, they should go for it. It's very liberating. It's awesome to be in control of your own destiny. It's super rewarding. There's no regrets, no looking back. It's the best decision I've ever made.